Hello, hi everyone. Let's take a look at the question bank for the Rainbow Cat Certified Engineer exam. Now let's move on to question 12. The main focus of question 12 is about creating a web content directory, which means modifying the web page content for our web service. So here, the first requirement is that you need to install the external service. Although we did install it before, previously we installed it on Node 3 and Node 4. This time, however, the requirement has changed. We need to install it on the DV host group. So who is the DV host group? Right, actually it's just Note 1, only Note 1. So here it's basically asking us to install this service on Note 1 and then modify some of its file contents. That's the requirement for this task. Next, let's proceed with the installation. Of course, when it comes to installation, what do we actually not need? Right, we don't need anything extra. We don't need to install it using yum. Instead, we can directly use the role we created earlier. We can just use that previously created role. First, let's take a look at the contents under our DV directory. Here, we can first check the status of the web service inside it. Of course, to be precise, we can't really call the external service our default one. Let's take a look at the contents under the site's root directory path. Let's check under the VR directory to see what's there. Currently, it shows here that there is no such file or directory, right? This is Node 1. In the DV group, what we mainly have is Node 1. It's mainly this Node 1 content. So next, let's take a closer look at this. Well, if there is no HTL under 3W in the VR directory here, what does that mean? It means that actually our service hasn't been installed yet because the service itself is not there. So here, first, let's edit this file of ours. This is a file for modifying the web page, this web page file. After entering, the first step is to create our table of contents. As for the task name, we can just write something like create, indicating the content for creating a directory. For the host group, we just specify it as dev. As for the role, we use the one we've used before. The alpha G role. Then for the specific task, we can just start executing it directly. For example, our first step here is to create our directory. What command do we use to create a directory? Here, we need to use the file module. After the file module, we add our path. As for the path, the first one is yes, web dev. The requirement for creation is that it should be a directory. Next, it's one of our groups. Finally, we set the permissions. These are all basic requirements mentioned in the task. After finishing this part, next, according to the task requirements, we still need to create a link file. To create a link file, we use link. So here, we are going to create a link file. Next, what do we still use? We still use the file module to start creating the link file. Actually, it also requires both the source directory and the target directory. So here too, there is src and desti. The target directory is to copy it to the var directory under HTML works webdv. All right. As for the final state of the source directory, we set it as link, which means we are not copying, but creating a link. Connect the files. Then move on to the next step. The final copy operation step. When copying, here we use R. The copy module, yes, this is for copying, this is for copying. Next, it's about the specific content to be copied, or you could also call it modifying the content. Either way is fine. Modify it to this content. And then continue. Path. Which file are we modifying? So here, our overall approach is actually to create a directory, create a link file, and then copy and modify the content a bit. That's all you need to do. This is the overall approach for this problem. Yes, the overall approach. After writing this, we can run it to verify and check the result. So here, what we created, there's a slight issue with the path. We were originally supposed to create it in our home directory as intended, but here, as you can see, it turns out that we actually created it in the root directory. No permission, right? Alright, let's edit it again. Just copy over the previous content, but when I copied it here, what did I copy extra? I copied the line number as well. Alright, here, let's delete the content. Here, let's see, I'll delete up to this position. Here, everyone, make sure to align it properly, pay attention to the alignment. Of course, what else can you do? After deleting it, first, delete it completely, and then if you press enter, it will automatically fill in. Well, not exactly fill in, but it will automatically indent for you. That's the effect of auto indentation, and that works too. Here, pay attention to the indentation issue. What do we do after deleting this? Alright, the next few steps are the same. Okay, this is the second task and the third task. Right here at this position. And for the next few, we'll do them one by one. Indent them. After the upgrade is completed, we save and exit. Run the command. Here it mentions our task. Over here, task. It's an S. Here, as you can clearly see, it explicitly mentions that one of our modules is located right here. Ansibles, there's a word issue here. Alright, it's starting to execute now. When executing, an error occurred here. What kind of error? It's an issue that happened while creating a directory. There's a problem with creating the directory. What does it say here? It says that our value must be one of the specified options. There's an issue with the word we used. One of the words is incorrect. When creating, this is related to the creation process. A method. Hey, why is there an extra one here? A slash. There's an extra slash here. Directory. Let's create a directory here. When creating the link, it reported an error. What did it say? It said there is no such file or directory. When we were creating the link, what was missing? A file or directory was missing. Let me take a look at the source file in the link. It is web model in the root directory. Web peek under the root directory. When recording ngai in the HTML under VR3W, let's see which error it reports. It says, this is a link here. We're linking from here to there. No such file or directory. If there's no file or directory, for this question, we're supposed to create our web content directory for Note 1, right? Create it for Note 1. Here we can take a look. After creating Note 1, the final result should be that there will be such content in this directory. Previously, which question was related to what we did here? It was the one about creating and using roles, right? In the question about creating and using roles, at that particular time, we installed HTTPD on Note 3 and Note 4. We set up the web service on both 3 and 4, making sure everything was configured properly and running smoothly. Then we created our roles. Yes, we created the roles for the servers, just as required, exactly as specified. For this question, first we can take a look at this. The title actually asks us, in fact, to create such a directory as specified. On Note 1, I noticed that there was an error message that appeared just a moment ago, though I'm not entirely sure if you happened to see it when it popped up on the screen. The message indicated an error similar to this. Right? When I was using the pow command to check this content earlier, what did I find? I found that there was a directory missing. Under the var ww directory, the HTML directory was missing, and if there's no HTML directory, so what did we do here first? Hey, I created this content first. At that time, we first created the web business and then the target directory. It was supposed to be the var www.html directory, but this directory was missing. Right? So when we checked just now, right, using this command, yeah, we checked using this command. At that time, we checked like this, and if this directory doesn't exist, if it gives an error here, it should be because this directory at the end is missing. Just now when I checked whether it exists, if it doesn't, then we'll just do it like this. Create an HTML of hvr under ww. Yeah, here let's just use the p option, add the p flag. After creating it, let's run our task again. The last step of the copy process is this. There was an error during the copy. It says there's unsupported content. Let's check which command in the file has an issue. Here, what I wrote is, I added an extra one here. S. If you spell your words wrong, or if the options here are incorrect, it will also give you related error messages here. What it says here is this. So, what's the reason for this error this time? Let's take a look. Yeah, there is indeed quite a lot of content to save. There's a lot of information in this error message. The error occurred in our last task. In the last task, we wrote it like this, right? But since we wrote it this way, let's check it. First, we have the copy option. For copying content, the directory we're copying to is this one, this directory file. To be precise, it's actually a file. And finally, this is the content. Here it is. As for the protocol, this side is the H service, specifically the HBD service. There might be a slight issue with the service name. The service name is a bit problematic, so this is the configuration for question 12. What should everyone pay attention to here? Mainly, pay attention to these words, the vocabulary, and also the issue with symbols. Just now, I made a few mistakes, and it was actually just a matter of the words. Other than that, overall, there aren't any major issues. So this is our This is the content for question 12. Here, all you really need to do is just modify the file. After making the changes, you should be able to access it normally. If you need the complete question, you can leave a comment below. Get the most stable database at the best price. That's all for today. Bye, everyone.